Something big is about to happen. And no, it's not a plot twist from a political drama. Former US President Donald Trump has just announced that leaders of Armenia and Azerbaijan are flying to Washington to sign a long-awaited peace agreement. After decades of war, tension, and broken talks, the two countries might finally be ready to shake hands. And Trump wants the world to know it's happening because of him. Oh, and there's more. A bold new transport corridor could reshape the entire region, and it's going to be named after Trump himself. But is this really the beginning of peace? Or just another flashy show with uncertain results? But before we dive in, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We bring you the most urgent global updates, exclusive conflict insights, and accurate forecasts you won't find elsewhere. But wait, that's not all. Not only will Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan and Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev be signing a bilateral peace agreement under American mediation, they'll also ink separate deals with the United States. The goal? Tapping into the vast and largely untapped economic potential of the South Caucasus. The most interesting part might just be ahead, Trump hinted. Let's take a step back. The Armenia-Azerbaijan conflict, rooted in the disputed region of Nagorno-Karabakh, has been one of the world's most intractable territorial disputes. The region, largely populated by ethnic Armenians, broke away from Azerbaijani control in the late 1980s. That sparked a series of bloody wars, peaking again in 2020 and culminating in September 2023, when Azerbaijani forces regained full control of the enclave. The result? Over 100,000 ethnic Armenians fled in what many called a mass exodus. Years of ceasefires, broken promises, and failed mediation followed. Until now. Earlier this year, Pashinyan and Aliyev held talks in the United Arab Emirates. There were whispers of progress, even optimism, but no signed deal. It wasn't until Trump's social media post on August 7th that the world heard of anything concrete. This changes the game, one American official told reporters on Background, and here's where it gets really interesting. The peace deal isn't just about halting conflict. It's about opening doors. Literally. US officials, speaking anonymously, revealed that the agreement will include American lease rights to help develop a long-closed transport artery, the strategic Zangezur corridor. Under the deal, it will be rebranded as the Trump Route for International Peace and Prosperity, or simply TRIPP. You read that right. A major transit corridor in the Caucasus, named after Donald J. Trump. This 32-kilometer strip of Armenian land would link mainland Azerbaijan with its exclave Nakhchivan, a sliver of land cut off for decades. If the TRIPP becomes a reality, it will carry not only freight trains and oil pipelines, but also fiber optic cables and, eventually, people. It could transform the region into a vital hub between East and West, but there's a catch. The United States will not pay for the corridor's construction. Instead, the deal is expected to lure in private corporations eager to invest in the next geopolitical gold rush. This isn't charity, a former US trade official noted, it's strategy. This development also shines a light on a shifting power dynamic. The waning influence of Russia in the South Caucasus. Once the dominant peacekeeper in the region, Moscow has seen its grip slip. A vacuum now being eyed by Washington. With Pashinyan already in Washington, he visited the Museum of the Bible on August 7th, according to his press office. And the trilateral summit confirmed the optics are clear. The United States is stepping in. And stepping up. The official line from Yerevan was cautious. On August 6th, Armenian officials confirmed Pashinyan would meet bilaterally with Trump and trilaterally with both Trump and Aliyev to promote peace, prosperity, and economic cooperation. But until Trump's post, none of the three governments had explicitly confirmed that a peace deal was being signed. Now, the world is watching. Will this be the breakthrough that ends decades of bloodshed? Or is it another flashy announcement with little follow-through? Let's not forget, past efforts by global leaders, including Russia, France, the EU, and the UN, have all come up short. But Trump is betting on boldness, branding, and big business to succeed where others have failed. If TRIPP succeeds, the benefits could be massive. Not just for Armenia and Azerbaijan, but for the entire Eurasian corridor. If it fails, it could raise new tensions and skepticism about US motives in a volatile region. You might think you've heard it all, but don't blink just yet. The next 24 hours could write a whole new chapter in global diplomacy. And whether you're a supporter or skeptic of Donald Trump, one thing's clear: the Trump doctrine isn't finished yet. And just when you thought that was the end of the story, it isn't. Because behind the headlines, behind the handshakes and signed papers, lies a far deeper geopolitical puzzle. The question on everyone's mind now isn't just, will this deal hold? But who truly wins if it does? For starters, the strategic implications of the TRIPP corridor are enormous. On paper, it's a commercial project. A network of roads, railways, energy pipelines and data cables linking Azerbaijan through southern Armenia to its disconnected exclave Nakhchivan and onward to Turkey and Europe. But behind the concrete and fiber optics, this corridor is a geopolitical artery. It would bypass Iranian territory, reduce dependence on Russian infrastructure, and cement American corporate presence in a region traditionally shaped by Moscow's shadow. Think about it. For decades, the South Caucasus was considered part of Russia's informal backyard. Russian troops have long patrolled its borders, and Kremlin-backed mediators have inserted themselves into every major negotiation round between Baku and Yerevan. But now, a new actor is carving out space in that theater, and doing so not with tanks or ultimatums, but with infrastructure and investment. And that brings us to one of the most delicate threads in this story: Russia's silence. Until very recently, Moscow would have furiously objected to any peace framework that excluded it. But this time, not a word. Some analysts suggest the Kremlin, bogged down in Ukraine and politically distracted, may simply not have the capacity to push back. Others see it as a sign of a slow but undeniable shift. Russia's grip on the South Caucasus is weakening, and both regional powers and global ones are seizing the opportunity. Meanwhile, back in Washington, this agreement is being spun not just as a foreign policy win, but as a showcase for Trump's return to global relevance. The timing is hard to ignore. With another presidential election looming, this deal, if successful, could become a centerpiece of his narrative that only Trump can do what others couldn't. He's not just branding a corridor, he's branding a legacy. And yet, there are unresolved tensions beneath the surface. Armenian society remains deeply skeptical of any deal with Azerbaijan that doesn't guarantee the safety and rights of ethnic Armenians. After the 2023 exodus from Nagorno-Karabakh, trust is at an all-time low. Many are still grieving, others are angry, and a large part of the Armenian diaspora remains vocal about the need for justice, not just economic integration. Azerbaijan too is treading carefully. While it celebrates military victory and regained territory, it now faces the equally complex task of managing peace. Rebuilding trust with a nation it has been at war with for generations is no small feat, and opening up its borders to large-scale foreign infrastructure development will require balancing national sovereignty with international cooperation. And what about Iran? The TRIPP corridor would effectively cut Iran out of a strategic loop, bypassing its borders, reducing its role in trans-regional trade, and possibly positioning it against a project backed by both Azerbaijan and the United States. Iran has historically opposed the Zangezur route precisely for this reason, and its response to the deal, if and when it's finalized, may be less than enthusiastic. So, while the flashbulbs may go off at the White House lawn on August 8th, the road ahead, both literally and diplomatically, is still full of twists and turns. Peace deals are one thing. Peace itself, a far more complex destination. Still, there's no denying that something significant is happening. The United States has placed its bet. Armenia and Azerbaijan have come to the table. And for the first time in a very long time, the idea of a stable, connected, and economically thriving South Caucasus doesn't feel entirely out of reach, as the region waits to see whether the promises on paper will turn into progress on the ground. One thing is certain, this isn't just a story about war and peace. It's a story about the future, about shifting alliances, bold moves, and a fragile but growing hope that after decades of bloodshed, the South Caucasus might finally be on the cusp of a new beginning. And if you're thinking that's the whole story, think again. Because with every deal signed in daylight, there are 10 conversations happening behind closed doors, and those may be the ones that matter most. And just like that, the spotlight on the South Caucasus becomes more intense than ever, because beyond diplomacy and development, there's something else quietly brewing. something that could redefine not just borders and alliances, but the very identity of the region. Let's be honest, this isn't just about infrastructure or diplomacy. This is about control over trade routes, over narratives, over influence. And while the world is busy dissecting every word of the upcoming peace agreement, there's a subtle but undeniable race unfolding in real time. A race between old powers and emerging ones, between tradition and transformation, and perhaps most of all between past trauma and future hope. You might have missed one crucial detail. The TRIPP corridor isn't just a pipeline for oil or fiber optics. It's a political pipeline too. Whoever controls that corridor doesn't just facilitate trade, they shape the region's future. And that's precisely why the involvement of the US, and particularly under the Trump banner, is more than symbolic. It's strategic. Trump's brand of diplomacy, sharp-edged, transaction-focused, and headline-driven, is entering a part of the world used to slower, more cautious negotiations. Some call it reckless, others call it bold, but no one can deny it gets attention. And in a region where peace talks have too often died in silence, maybe disruption is exactly what was needed. Still, this new wave of momentum is colliding with generations of history. For many Armenians, the wounds of the 2020 war and the more recent loss of Nagorno-Karabakh are still open. Thousands remain displaced. Families are still searching for closure, both emotional and political. Can an economic corridor really substitute for justice? Can prosperity heal what bullets tore apart? If you want to stay ahead of the curve with real-time updates, in-depth analysis, and expert insights on global flashpoints like this one, make sure to subscribe. This is just the beginning.